What if I told you that over 5 million Canadians, once the most loyal, dependable, and friendly visitors to the United States, have suddenly stopped coming? And what if I told you that in places like California, Texas, Nevada, and Florida, their absence is now pushing entire towns to the brink of collapse? This isn't a future scenario. It's happening right now. From the deserts of Arizona to the lakes of New York, a quiet travel boycott is silently reshaping America's tourism economy. And the scariest part? Most Americans haven't even realized it yet. If you're from one of these 10 states, you might already feel it: fewer cars on the highway, fewer guests in your local diner, or maybe a strange emptiness where a once busy RV park used to be packed with cheerful snowbirds. Those smiling Canadian tourists, families, retirees, and weekenders are gone. And with them, so is the lifeblood of many small businesses, local jobs, and seasonal incomes. Today, we'll take you on a journey through the 10 U.S. states most affected by this silent exodus. Stay with us, because some of the names on this list might surprise you. Let's start with California. Big, bold, beautiful California. A state that has long sold itself as the pinnacle of the American dream. But even dreams are fragile when trust starts to erode. At one point, nearly 1 million Canadians made their way to California every year. From the bustling streets of San Francisco to the wine-soaked hills of Napa Valley, and the sun-soaked boardwalks of Venice Beach, they came, they stayed, they spent. But in 2025, hotel bookings in key cities dropped by up to 30%. Tour operators in Hollywood slashed their trip schedules. It's not just the rising prices or long flights. Many Canadians now say California feels different. Some mention feeling unwelcome. Others point to political tension, border policies, or a cultural shift that doesn't feel as warm and inviting as before. And when you add in a weak Canadian dollar that makes every US dollar feel 30% more expensive, the choice becomes easy. Why struggle to feel accepted in a country where dinner costs more and the smile feels forced, when they could go to Portugal, Mexico, or even stay home? Let's head south to Texas, a state often seen as bold, confident, and full of flavor. But even a state built on independence and strength is not immune to the quiet pullback of a neighbor's affection. In 2024, over 1 million Canadians visited Texas. Not just the major cities like Houston or Austin, but also small towns nestled in hill country and along the southern border. But by 2025, the RV parks that used to buzz with life now echo with silence. Restaurants in San Antonio now close earlier. Car rental companies are holding more cars than they can rent. And those who relied on Canadian snowbirds and long-stay visitors are feeling the sting. Some Canadians say Texas no longer aligns with their values. They speak of political shifts, immigration debates, and a sense of cultural discomfort. For a Canadian family that used to camp near Fredericksburg each winter, the feeling is bittersweet. We still love Texas, they say. We love the people. But it doesn't feel like it belongs to us anymore. Next, we land in the neon-lit streets of Las Vegas, Nevada. A city built on energy, luck, and constant motion. But what happens when the energy fades and luck runs out, not at the tables, but in the tourism numbers? In 2024, Nevada welcomed around 1.7 million Canadian tourists. That's more than just tourists, it's a loyal group of returners. People who knew the staff at the hotels, who tipped generously at the buffet, who stayed long and spent big. But by 2025, Vegas was seeing an unprecedented drop in visitors. Room occupancy fell from 90% to just 50% during peak times. Direct flights from Canada were cancelled or scaled back. Casinos, restaurants, even convention centres began reporting losses. Why did the regulars disappear? Some Canadians say they no longer feel safe. Others say they feel disrespected by political and cultural developments. Airfares up, meals are more expensive, and that welcoming vibe, the one that made Las Vegas a second playground, is gone. Now picture the peaceful towns of northern New York. Quiet lakes, cozy inns, and weekend traffic from Ontario, Quebec, and beyond. Canadian tourists accounted for the highest portion of international traffic to upstate New York in 2024. But in 2025, revenue in some regions dropped by 30 to 50%. Inns once booked solid through spring now sit half empty. Lakefront restaurants close early. Border crossings like Buffalo and Alexandria Bay now have more seagulls than cars. Canadians once saw New York as the perfect weekend getaway, close, affordable, and familiar. But now, with inflation, stricter border policies, and a sense of lost hospitality, they are staying away. One Montreal visitor said it best: "We used to feel like neighbors. Now, it feels like no one notices when we stop coming." A boat rental owner at Lake George said last summer he bought more boats just to keep up with Canadian demand. This year, no one's calling. He's been told to sell some of them. But he's holding on. Still hoping they'll return. And what about Arizona? For decades, it has been the winter haven for tens of thousands of Canadian retirees. Places like Yuma, Mesa, and Tucson came to life every winter thanks to the RVs, the golf carts, and the lively snowbird community from the north. But in 2025, that winter joy has been replaced by quiet unease. RV parks are empty. Golf courses are reporting a 40% drop in players. And local shops have stopped importing familiar Canadian items because no one is buying them anymore. The issues run deep. Older Canadian travellers are increasingly uneasy about the politicization of health issues, debates around rights and freedoms, and a general sense of cultural distance. Add in the soaring cost of travel health insurance and a weaker loonie, and Arizona feels like a luxury, not a given. A couple from British Columbia put it bluntly: "We used to call Arizona our winter home. Now we are not even sure if we are welcome there." Further up the west coast, Washington state once acted like Vancouver's backyard. In 2024, more than 3 million Canadians visited Washington, mostly by road. They crossed the border for cheaper gas, weekend shopping, and relaxing getaways in charming towns like Bellingham or Leavenworth. But by 2025, the outlets in Tulalip are operating with 30% fewer staff. Roadside markets have food they can't sell. Bellingham's gas stations now sit quiet. The reason? Canadians say the border feels more like a barrier now. Stricter post-pandemic policies, a poor exchange rate, and a vibe that's less welcoming. A grocer near the Peace Arch crossing said it best: "We loaded the shelves. No one came." It's that simple. Washington has always been more than a destination, it was part of a shared weekend ritual. But even the best rituals fade when they stop feeling mutual. Let's drive across to Michigan, where the ferry routes from Ontario once carried millions of Canadians across the water each year. In 2024, it was normal to see Canadian families shopping in Detroit, fishing in Traverse City, or relaxing in Mackinac Island. Now, ferry companies are cancelling routes due to low demand. Border towns are reporting their worst tourism numbers in a decade. Gas stations and motels are operating on skeleton crews. Festivals once held for Canadian guests are being cut due to budget shortfalls. Some call it a temporary slump. But locals know it's more than that. It's a fading relationship. And if it's not addressed soon, with friendlier policies, better exchange incentives, and simply more kindness, Michigan risks losing more than tourist dollars. It could lose a bond that took decades to build. Now we head to Maine. Rugged, peaceful, and beloved by those who want to unplug. For years, Canadian families filled campgrounds, boarded lobster tours, and dined in roadside seafood shacks. But in 2025, peak season looked more like off-season. Cruise tours were cancelled. Campsites had vacancy signs for the first time in 20 years. Ice cream parlors closed weeks early. Canadians didn't stop loving Maine's natural beauty. They just stopped feeling welcome. Increased travel costs, border hassles, and a perception of tension have driven them away. And while Maine still offers the peace and quiet they crave, it's missing one essential ingredient: the feeling that someone's happy they came. Next, we find ourselves in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Once a bustling haven for Canadians looking to escape harsh winters without the Florida crowds, Myrtle Beach is now facing a 40% cancellation rate from its northern neighbors. Resorts are offering deep discounts. Beachfront shops are closing earlier. Golf courses are cutting staff. Locals notice the change. So do the tourists who still come, but say something's missing. A Nova Scotia couple, who once spent every February in Myrtle Beach, told us, "We used to feel like locals here. Now we feel like outsiders." It's subtle. But it's real. That subtle shift is costing Myrtle Beach more than revenue, it's costing them their reputation as a welcoming escape. Finally, we reach Florida. The crown jewel. For decades, Florida and Canada had a special bond. Over 3.5 million Canadians visited Florida annually. Some stayed for weeks. Others, 4 months. They bought condos. They became part of the community. But in 2025, that bond is showing cracks. Mobile home parks in Fort Myers are quiet. French menus have disappeared from restaurants in Naples. Airlines have pulled out of secondary airports. And local businesses are sounding the alarm. Why? Because the costs have become unbearable. Insurance premiums, unpredictable weather from climate change, and growing safety concerns have made Florida feel less like paradise, and more like a risk. One Quebec resident told us, "We loved Florida. We still do. But this year, we went to Costa Rica instead. And honestly, we are not sure we'll come back." So what does all of this mean? It means that the United States can no longer take Canadian tourism for granted. These are not just tourists. They are neighbors, friends, loyal returners who shaped economies, communities, and even culture. Their silent exit isn't just about dollars. It's about trust. It's about relationships. And if things don't change, if warmth, welcome, and fairness aren't restored, then these 10 states won't just lose visitors. They'll lose a generation of goodwill. If you live in one of these places, and you're wondering why things feel a little quieter, now you know.